Hey, well, hello again, and I want to start off with a quote by Lama Yeshe about mind training. When you study Buddhism, you're studying yourself, the nature of your body, speech, and mind, the main emphasis being on the nature of your mind and how it works in everyday life. Why is it so important to know the nature of your own mind? Since we all want happiness, enjoyment, peace, and satisfaction, and since these things do not come from ice cream, but from wisdom and the mind, we have to understand what the mind is and how it works. Lama Tubten Yeshe. So here at the Abbey, I've been here almost 4 years now, and there is a constant emphasis in the very best way on mind training. And this phrase here by Lama Yeshe about everyday life is, that's the factory, that's the petri dish, that's the place where we're looking constantly. And the practice on the cushion supports that, and then off the cushion is, and sometimes, I guess for me, just speaking from my own point of view, is sometimes the much more difficult thing to be doing. Because as many people have said when they've sat here and talked about it, we can just get caught up just like people outside the monastery on our list, you know. I'm getting number 1 done, number 2 done, number 3 done. Now how I'm getting it done might not be in a very Dharma way, and it might not be in a very mindful way. I might be snapping at people, I might be ignoring them, I might not be practicing kindness. So we have many, many mind training tools given to us by our teachers from way, way back. And one of the favorites that I learned very, very early from Venerable Chitran, it's a favorite by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we recite it every 4th day here after lunch, is comes from the 8 verses of Thought Transformation by Longri Tampo. And the very first one of these 8 verses is so powerful. They're just 8 tiny verses. But I believe totally that if we could live by these, we would reach Buddhahood just from these 8 verses. They are so intensely challenging to the self-centeredness. So today I'm just going to talk a couple moments about the first verse, with the thought of attaining awakening for the welfare of all beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. I will constantly practice holding them dear. Every word in that verse is a novel and or 3 volumes. First is the thought that arises. So here we are working with the mind. And then what's the goal? Attaining enlightenment for the welfare of all beings. So these first 2 lines were right into bodhicitta, mind. It's all beings, no one left out. So we have the ones that it's easy or somewhat easy for us to generate this sense of holding them dear, usually our friends, our family, or the person in the moment who's agreeing with us. And then an hour later, they might not agree with us, and then all of a sudden in my mind, they're not so dear. So we get to watch this shifting, shifting, shifting. But really think of this phrase, more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. So imagine having a gem that you could wish for anything in the world, you know, the whole magic thing that we all knew, the Aladdin's lamp, the many, many stories as young children. Having this jewel, you get a new car, you could get, maybe you could live a long time, maybe you could wish not to die, you could wish for any kind of material thing, but none of those are going to free you. Not a single one of them, even living forever, not one of them is going to free yourself or others. So how are these beings, these people, these animals, more precious than that? And this kind of mind training forces you to begin looking at that. Well, I can think of 2 reasons. The first one is our liberation is all tied up together, and without the liberation of these beings, we will not be freed. So there it is. absolutely more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. Because if the goal is awakening, how are we going to awaken? We need to work with what happens for us with sentient beings. We need to practice our kindness, practice generosity, practice patience. Who are we going to do that with? Can't do it in a box alone. And the second reason is that we stretch to constantly practice holding them dear, because that's what the Buddha mind does, is hold them dear. If we want to cultivate the Buddha mind, then we need to begin by just mimicking the Buddha mind and continuing to hone away at our self-centeredness, so that someday we can actually do this verse very easily, and I think it would bring a lot of happiness.